Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multi-millionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too without experiencing the same obstacles they did. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I am Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we're joined by a very special guest. We've got Chris Brisson. He is a friend and a mentor and someone that can provide a lot of value to us. I'm really excited about this interview. Chris started his first company out of college. He built it for 3 years, sold it in 2005. In 2013, he was Infusionsoft's Marketer of the Year, which is not an easy thing to achieve. He's got 2 automated internet businesses, plus a consulting company that's responsible for generating over $1 million in sales for his clients. He's a close friend, he's wicked smart, and he's a family man. He's someone who really cares about people, helping out, and relationships. He's someone I feel very, very appreciative for being able to call on and to talk to. And again, it's an honor to be able to have a conversation with him and bring you guys into the fold today. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm actually really excited to be on here, and thanks for the invitation. Hopefully, we can give some good value to everyone on the call.
Yeah. Well, I just whenever I've got a problem or you're just one of the top 10 that I turn to. And so, again, if I'm sincere in my mission about wanting to help create 200 new multimillionaires, I know I want to have the best on the call. And, you obviously fit into that mold. So your marketing stuff is always on point. It's always sharp. It's always well done. And I love the way you look at the business world as well. You've got a lot of profound insights. You've read a lot of the great books. So I just think that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and so you're definitely someone I want to surround myself with more often. Now, you weren't always where you are now. So, what happened back in the day? How did you even get started in all this?
Well, first off, man, thanks for the kind words. I really appreciate it. So I guess the real quick story is I kind of accidentally fell into business. Actually, I come from an entrepreneurship family. My dad's always started companies, mostly restaurants, that sort of thing. And so just growing up, I always had kind of, the seeing what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And I just always kind of always knew that's what I wanted to do. And my dad always said, don't work for anybody. So, all right, I guess I want to do that. So, but I can thank the Fast and the Furious because when I was 18 years old, I was just going off to college, and I, like any 18-year-old kid back in the Fast and Furious days, 2000, wanted to quote unquote pimp their ride, and I wanted to get wheels for my car. I got a Mustang, and I wanted to get rims like any other kid would. So, come to find out, I went to look for these wheels, and they were like $2,000 just for the rims, and I didn't have any money. I was working at Applebee's at the time, and as a waiter in the summer here in Florida, and you don't make a lot of money. So needless to say, I was like, man, how can I figure out a cheaper way to get these wheels? And so I found a distributor in Miami, ended up calling them up and playing as if, because they only dealt with wholesale, they didn't do retail. So I couldn't go there and buy them, but I kind of sneakily called them and said, hey, this is Chris with Boca Tint and Tunes. I've got a customer that wants the 17 by 9, 168, polished whatever wheels. So I was like, cool. He's like, yeah, come on down. It's $468. I'm like, what? Holy crap! So I came down with cash, and the guy kind of knew. He's like, all right, this kid just wants to buy rims. So ended up bringing cash down there, got the wheels, and literally that day put them on the car. I put used tires on there because I couldn't afford new ones. And next day, literally drove to Florida State University in Tallahassee and had my wheels. And fast forward 2 years into Florida State, dead broke, didn't have any money, could barely pay my $250, $300 rent, and I needed money. And my buddy's like, dude, why don't you sell your rims? And I said, oh, where would I sell them? He's like, oh, you got to check out eBay. So I look out on eBay and come to find out the same wheels that I bought for $468, these guys were selling the wheels for $900. So I was like, holy shit, this is a business. And so called my dad. I'm like, Dad, what do I need to do? He's like, oh, you got to get a business license. You got to, do this, all this stuff. And Penske Auto, Kmart, they had an extension of Kmart, which they did the oil changes on stuff. They were going out of business, and basically they had an auction. They were auctioning off all the equipment, and so I bought equipment. I borrowed maybe $1,000 from my dad and bought a wheel changer and tire balancer and all this stuff, and had a company and just started. In the summer I would do sell the rims and tires, and then. Anyhow, fast forward through college, would broker tire deals and sell tires to people on the internet. Ended up selling the company in 2005, but it didn't come with its challenges. I got broken into, and these dudes stole $3,000 or $4,000 worth of inventory. Whoa. Fraud was rampant, and you're shipping huge rims and tires across the country, right. And if it gets scratched, the customer's not happy, so you got to ship it back and all this stuff. So anyhow, thank God I sold the business, learned a lot, and vowed never again to go into sell physical stuff, especially heavy things. And that's where I just kind of discovered, hey, how do you sell? How do you learn Zig Ziglar and those guys, and I was like, man, how do I learned about direct mail and all that sort of stuff, and then jumped into, well, heck, if these guys are doing it in direct mail, somebody's got to be doing it on the internet.
Right.
And then just dove into the massive rabbit hole of internet marketing and trying to figure that out. So
and I love what you just brought up. First of all, I love the lesson that you learned there. You jumped into a business, and it was a bit of a grind, and that's similar to my story where I just felt it was a real grind in the brick and mortar kind of retail scene. But the part that I love is just what you said about direct mail, and if people are using this direct response thing, in radio and television, and in the mail and in magazines, it must work with the internet. And it's funny, I had a conversation the other day with someone talking about internet marketing, and they didn't really seem to see it that way. And maybe we can kind of help enlighten some of the listeners. They thought that internet marketing was a very specialty particular thing, but I had to be like, no, man, the principles that you use in internet marketing are actually really, really, really good if you they transfer over to everything else, to direct mail, to radio. It's not very different. It's just the medium is different. How do you feel about that? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what do you think?
I mean, it's a medium, right? It's a channel, and it's inexpensive, right? At the end of the day, everyone is on their computer, they're connected. Right. I can't wait for us to get past this looking down era, right? Everyone's looking down on their phones.
Right.
And, more people are connected. There's no signs of it slowing down. Third world countries, they don't have any food, but they have a cell phone, right? Yep. More and more people are connected to the internet. So you have to be on the internet to have any sort of business presence, especially moving into the future. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just a channel, but apparently everyone in the world is on it. And so, why would you not put a business online? I think it's just ridiculous if you're not even thinking about it.
Right. Well, no, exactly. And I mean, most businesses, and that's something one of your businesses, Call Loop. I mean, you help bridge the gap, and it is, in a lot of ways, it embodies what we're talking about, because you just said the internet is one of the most efficient, it's cheap, it's most inexpensive, but it's the least efficient. So where responses, apparently if you do direct mail, if you have a winning online campaign, you transfer that into direct mail, as long as it performs, you should expect a 5 to 20 time ROI, better response with direct mail than you get with online. Because when you're on a computer, there's all sorts of distractions. But online is so great and so easy to collect data and information and follow up with them, again, using Call Loop, where you text them, voice broadcast, that sort of thing. And now, like you said, it's one channel. It's moving into multiple channels. But how did you even figure that out in the beginning? Because I mean, selling tires, you were just selling them with eBay? How are you were direct me, like, how are you? I want to figure out like how you progressed in understanding marketing and just developing that marketing prowess, because a lot of people, they don't develop that skill. And I feel like that's what really holds a lot of businesses back, is that they're like, oh, I had a call yesterday. A guy has a piece of software. He might want to bring me in because he's like, he's a programmer and he's built this great tool.
Right.
But the business graveyard is littered with great products and services that nobody knows about, and this guy is suffering from that. So I just wanted to could you maybe speak to that a little bit, your education and your growth and progress?
Yeah, I think when I first read, I'm blabbling here.
Fine, it's okay.
When I first got into like discovering marketing, it was just kind of like I felt like I uncovered like the ultimate secret. Like, oh my gosh, and I remember Jay Abraham. I bought a tape cassette course on eBay. I think it's called How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And I remember just listening to this on this old tape deck I had, to these tapes. And, Jay says, marketing is the ultimate leverage. And that always stuck with me. It's like, yeah, like if you know how to market, I mean, you could do anything, right? Like that's it. Like if you can market it, you can sell anything, you can grow any business, but you got to figure out how do you do that. And so when I first got into marketing, I didn't even know it was marketing. I thought I need to learn how to sell better. So when I had the wheels and all that sort of stuff on eBay, well, first of all, eBay is a marketplace, right? You put shit out there and people search for it and they buy it, right? Like you don't have to drive traffic. You don't have to, do any of that stuff. You just got to have good photos, which is actually one thing I figured out was, I had all these wheels, but everybody was just showing stock pictures that they got from the manufacturer. So I actually went to the manufacturer, went to the wholesaler for like 2 days. I sat there with a little thing, like a little black little thing behind the wheel, and I took photos of all of the wheels. So that gave me like an advantage for somebody else to buy my stuff versus the other guy that's using just a manufacturer photo.
Right. So
that was one thing that I learned, and I just kind of learned these little small things to like sell better and like for people to buy my stuff versus somebody else.
Right.
So one of the other discoveries I made was, shipping was a big cost. So a lot of my competitors would charge the $130 per shipping. Well, if you bought the wheels and you bought the tires as a package, you had to get it mounted and balanced. If you go to any tire shop, they're going to charge you for mounting and balancing. So what we did was we offered free shipping, but you had to get mounting and balancing, which was $60. You had to get lug nuts, which was another $50. So it kind of mitigated our costs, but we increased our sales, right? Versus the guy where people are like, well, I don't want to pay $130 for shipping. These guys offer free shipping. Well, the hook is, you got to get mounting and balancing. We're not going to ship you 8 packages. We're going to ship you 4, which is, the wheels and everything already done to your door, so you can just put it on. So that was one of the things, and like just throwing in little gimmicks, like here, get a little like flashlight with your order.
Right.
So like these little goofy little things. But from that, I was like, I need to learn how to sell. I need to learn how to sell better, and learning how to quote unquote sell better actually turned into how do I market better. Right?
And that's a great point to bring up, because what is marketing? What is marketing really? And marketing, as I understand it, and how back in the day, all the old legends in our industry, they say marketing is salesmanship multiplied.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're saying. You're learning how to sell better, but when you sell, if you're selling one-on-one, there's only so many people you can talk to in a day, right? But if you learn how to market and you learn how to speak to people as a group and create a system that generates interest and follows up with people and gets them to that point of buying, and especially the way you do business, I mean, you do all your sales online, right? Or with as little personal interaction that you have to do as possible. And it's not in any way to be an impersonal experience. It's to be a smooth user experience that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's something, again, that if you're the sales rep, then you can't make sales when you're sleeping. You can't make sales when you're working on your business versus in it. And so that's marketing. It's salesmanship multiplied. So now, what do you feel helped you? Like, how did you learn how to sell?
Well, I first learned like Zig Ziglar, but that's very old school door-to-door sales, and was really intrigued with that. And then I really learned like from Jay Abraham a lot of the core principles of sales letters, selling through print, just marketing, leverage, joint ventures, and that stuff. And I really got intrigued with information products because I really was like, I was just done with, there's got to be a better way. I mean, I don't want to sell stuff. I don't want to sell rims and tires. There's got to be a better way, like an easier business to build and grow and scale, and got into information products. And so one of the first attempts was I created an info product called Raffle Secrets, which was basically a raffle ebook that showed nonprofits how to create a raffle. And it was like $27, but there was a lot of interesting things I learned from that. Was number one, bad market. All these people were old, they didn't use the internet. And it would make a couple $100 a month, but it wasn't like anything that you could really grow with. Right. And so, I learned a lot of just creating an information product, writing an ebook, creating videos, putting up a sales page, working with ClickBank. I just did it. And from that, we actually created another business. It was called My Revive, which was actually a marketing system for a direct sales company. And it was replicated websites, so we sold these websites for $20 a month, and it was a great business. I mean, it was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, we don't have to sell anything. We're selling air, we're selling websites, and it was a very scalable business. I didn't like the industry; it was MLM, and ended up getting out of that. But it was a great learning, and it made money, and it actually funded my education in marketing. Right. So I was buying all the courses, and just feeding myself and funding my education on learning marketing. And that's when I discovered Frank Kern and Jeff Walker and Product Launch Formula and Mass Control, and learning all this stuff. And then really transitioned into I always wanted to do just a big, massive product launch. And I knew the process and ended up taking on one client, totally pro bono, didn't pay me anything just because I wanted to learn the process. And, he had a small internet business, but he was making maybe $1,000 a month, but he had a very good kind of influence in the market. And this is in raw foods. And he was kind of one of the first ones to kind of, I guess, really enter into that market. But this is 2008. And he had a list of 5,000, but he would always send his weekly newsletters were just always here you come, here's the same thing I sent you last week. Same HTML email, just kind of copy paste. There was no personality into it. So I came on and really just with some really good copywriting and just storytelling through email, we rolled into a mini kind of save us. Well, I guess you can call it damaged goods, but an inventory blowout. So he had a course. He was selling this course. It was 35 DVDs. He was printing them. He was burning them. He was putting them in the jewel cases. He was going to Office Depot, printing the books. And it was just overkill. No one's going to go through 35 DVDs. So anyhow, basically did a small little 3-day sale, and I think it was actually kind of the 40 cash machine before even the 40 cash machine came out.
Right, which is just a half off sale, right?
Just a half off sale, but it was an inventory thing. And I remember seeing Yannick Silver do these, hey, look at my closet, it's full of these inventory, you got to help me. And it worked. So we ended up doing $15,000, $14,000 in 2 days. Where this guy was blown away. His best month ever was $1,500. So, and then we rolled that money, and basically I automated his whole business. So, got a fulfillment center with Dis.com. Got everything just redesigned, turned it into 10 DVDs versus 35. Right. Got the books printed, and so now it was an automated business, and we rolled that into a product launch. We did $135,000 in 35 days. The first day we did $25,000. I was like, holy Lord.
Yeah. which is
Anyhow,
awesome. It's the power of marketing. It's the power of understanding this tool. And like you said, it's huge. When you know how to wield it, when you know what you're doing, it can change lives. I agree with that hands down. So many people are sitting on a business that they've got a fortune they don't even know of. It's so funny because I just had in the last 2 weeks, I had 2 different people I was connected with reach out for me for partnership deals where they have sites that are generating over 1 million, 1.5 million unique visitors per month, but they're making like $3,000 to $5,000 a month with AdSense. And like, they're like, how do I monetize this? And it's like the sites are so niche, like they're so specific. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like drooling, right? Because you've got 1.5 million unique visitors a month. And that's it?
About an opt-in form.
yeah, you're like, put a pop-up. Like, I don't know. Hey, I have an idea. Let's survey them. Let's just ask them, hey, what would you buy? Like, it's just,
I hope people don't we're throwing numbers around and all that sort of stuff. And maybe some people feel uncomfortable talking about that. But, at the end of the day, like, if you're a business owner, I don't know, we're all in this together. And, if we can just share some insights, I have nothing to hide.
Right.
And, it's what we did, but it came from wanting to learn, and discovering oh my gosh, this is the way you launch a product. And that was from Jeff Walker.
Right.
And, just learning those core principles to launching a product, to writing copy, to doing all the components, and, not having a product of my own, it gave me free reign to run and execute my own quote unquote experiment. And I got paid for it at the end of the day. Yeah. Right. So for me, it was a huge learning process, and ended up doing another launch for another client where we did, a crazy amount of money in a week. And from that, it was, the one thing I learned was we were doing teleseminars, we were doing email marketing, we did a little direct mail, we were using all of these different channels. Right. And one of the channels we experimented with was voice broadcasts for the Q&A calls and teleseminars that we were doing. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to automate that. We would have to kind of export our list from Aweber, import it into a system, and it wasn't automated, right? So that's kind of where Call Loop came from. We were doing all this stuff, and there was no easy way to add it to our marketing and our process. And so that's where kind of Call Loop came from, was how do we automate this? We're using Aweber, we're collecting payments from PayPal and One Shopping Cart. How do we build this list so now we can easily send out voice broadcasts? And then text messaging came a little bit later.
Right. No, and again, those are great lessons and again, anyone listening, I think they need to pay attention because you've hit some great things. Like first of all, you jumped in. You were volunteering or you were getting involved even for a fee in other people's projects. And that's one of the best ways to refine skills, because when you're doing it yourself, you know what I mean? It's almost better to cut your teeth getting involved in someone else's project, because you can learn from the mistakes you make with them. And then you've got an ally and you've got a team, and you can really, it's an easy way to shorten the learning curve is just to get involved. In fact, that's one of the things that I used to do all the time. I used to just I remember Friday nights, my friends would be wanting me to go out party, and I'd be like, sorry, I can't, I got to help my buddy. And I would just be getting involved with anyone I met at a conference, and, keep in touch with hey, let's sit down and talk about your business. They're stressed out. They're not making their bills. Hey, let's talk about it and, and figure this out, because it's a muscle, and it's just about exercise and flexing that. And I just love how you talked about you just jumped in, and then you were figuring it out as you went, and then at the same time you were applying the stuff that you were learning, and you were experimenting. And then I love, because you were we had a problem, and when I solved the problem, that's how you built a business out of that. You were helping other people, and you came across a problem, and in solving the problem for them and in their project, you created your own business, your own offshoot, which you've done really you've done awesome with Call Loop.
Thanks, man.
And it's a great service. It really is. So, again, there's so many little life lessons there that I think are so important.
And I think it's, you're going to find these opportunities, just doing those launches. Well, guess what? I know how to launch products. I know how to get affiliates together. I know how to do all of this stuff. And doing it for somebody else, you get that experience, because I never worked for a company, right? Mm-hmm. I never got to work with a big corporation or, got to work with, these huge marketers or anything. So I just had to learn. I had to learn by myself and doing these things. And so, I would say if I had the opportunity maybe I would have worked for, another marketer and just kind of maybe learned the insides of it. Maybe it would have fast-tracked me, but I would want to be on a fast-paced environment, right?
Yeah.
Where I can let me flex my muscles, teach me along the way, but let me run with it, right? At least that's the way I work. And so, I mean, if you're wanting to get started, there's a lot of businesses where there's a lot of opportunity and they're just not seeing it. And I think like Jay Abraham said it best is, like the hidden profits inside of your business. And every business has all these opportunities that people just don't see. Yep. And, those are opportunities for you to kind of help them out with that stuff.
Yep. And that's where things like plugging into a podcast like this and having a tight group of people that you can turn to just go, hey, this is what I'm doing, and just get outside opinion. That's why, or being a part of a mastermind group, that's why that stuff's so valuable, is it allows you to see other perspectives and really, really expand on instead of having this tunnel vision of what you're trying to do. And, because a lot of us, we're having such, because implementation, getting it done is always the battle, right? So we get like our heads down and we get focused on implementing and our, achieving our goals. But oftentimes, like you said, we walk by things that would have made our life much easier, better, faster, stronger if we just had known about them. So.
Yeah, but guess what, dude? I learned all of that stuff because I had to.
Yep. Right?
Like I know HTML, I know CSS, I know how to write copy, I know how to, create an image in Photoshop. I know how to do that stuff because I had to. Yep. And I think a lot of people just may get stuck with, well, I got to find the right person to do it. And yeah, some projects you may, but you got to learn it, right? Yep. I started learning for my Revive business. I remember paying a designer $2,500, which is literally like the only money I had.
Right.
And after she was done, she's like, okay, well, it'll be $90 per page. I'm like, $90 per page. I'm like, holy crap. So I'm like, all right, well, let me figure this out, let me learn. So I had to learn, and, it's going to take time, but I think just, having those core skills, because there's a lot of stuff that I still jump into and do because, granted, it'll take me 5 minutes versus, finding somebody else to do it. Right. Just because I know how to do it, and I know, how to do that stuff better than some people do. Yep. Or at least I like to believe that.
Or how you want it done. No. I think
exactly.
Valuable. Again, it's the same thing. And I know that we're talking about like product launches and this, but again, it all applies to whatever you're doing. When you talk about doing a product like an online product launch and sending email, I mean that's no different than if it's in the offline world, right? Getting joint venture partners online, people to help promote your business, those are strategic alliances. It's the same thing if you've got a product and you need to figure out how to get 4 or 5 different distributors on board, or how to make friends with all, like how to get in, how to penetrate into an industry and make those contacts that you need to help you get the exposure you need. It's all the same stuff. It's all very transferable. So
you got to do the work. At the end of the day, I mean, you got to experiment and fail and try and learn. Everything is going to be a learning experience.
Yep.
There's been stuff that I've always wanted to create, or there's a million ideas that I think we all have, and a lot of them you're not going to do. You're not actually going to build it.
Yep.
But going through the process of figuring out and seeing if it actually is a real business. I've learned a lot about valid ideas versus small time little income ideas.
Well, can we talk about that? Because in my head, what was percolating just now was wanting to talk about how you differentiate. Because a lot of people, again, when I had my martial arts school, I didn't realize that I was jumping into a limited market, and I didn't realize that that if I really wanted to grow and scale it, I would have to turn to a franchise model and duplicate in multiple cities. I never did that, but can you maybe speak is there a checklist or any criteria or any books you could recommend to help people figure out how to analyze business deals and that, and take a look at what they're doing and go, hey, am I running into like a dead end? Am I driving a Ferrari on a dead end block? Do I have this great product and business, but there's only 10 people that want to buy it?
Yeah, I think, the first thing is, what kind of business do you want to create, right? And what's your expertise in a certain area? So, if you just want to create kind of a passive, $500 a month, I mean, there's a lot of niches that you can do that in, and that's fine, right? Now, creating, I think Rich Schefren said it best, and it always stuck with me, is are you creating an income or are you creating a business, right? Like, you can create an income, you can make $5,000 a month, but is that actually a business, right? And that's, I think, the difference between affiliate marketing, which really isn't a business, it's an income opportunity.
Right.
And then a business, right? It's like, do you want to create a business? And you don't have to create a business where you have to have all these employees. I mean, we're all virtual, and in many respects, it's embarrassing if you walked in my office. Right? So, you don't have to have a huge operation. And so I think, it's first getting clear, what do you want to create, right? Because you can create a part-time income with, creating an information product. But to create a business, I think, it's a little bit different. Like, does it have legs? Is it in a market that is not going to change or shift? Is it a product that is within my skill set? So I just got off the phone a little bit ago with a friend of mine. He's creating a T-shirt company, and it's a T-shirt company backed by technology. I mean, it's really a technology company, right? It's just you're selling T-shirts. So I was like, dude, who's on your tech team? Like, who's going to build your product? Because that's what it is. Oh, we have this guy, and he's already kind of flaked out on him, the programmer, and he's kind of like his hands are tied because he does not know what to do, and how to get the product built. That's not really in his core competency. Now, he has a lot of money; he can hire the right people, but he knows how to build a business, but it's not really in his wheelhouse of creating a technology company. Like, he knows how to sell, he knows how to market stuff. Well, when your business is dependent on the technology side of stuff, and you don't know the technology side of stuff, you got to get somebody that does, right?
Yeah, that's a real problem.
So, the easiest business in the world is information. It's scalable, it's cheap, it's high profit margin, and the key is really just finding that sort of niche. And so, I always say, if like you're just getting started, pull a raffle of secrets, like pull some, just get started with something. Like, you have some skills. So actually, I'll give you a good example. So from that whole raffle secrets thing is, from college, I made some really bad decisions with credit card debt and credit cards, and I knew nothing about credit scores or what that meant later in life, right? Like, you make some dumb changes, and dumb decisions in college. And so, anyhow, I had bad credit, and it really hit me. It was like Christmas time, and I'm in line at Banana Republic, and there's like 20 people behind me, and the girl's like, "Oh, would you like to save 20% on your purchase today?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know, it's a credit card offer." She's like, "Yeah, take me 2 seconds." I'm like, "Yeah, go for it," because I knew I was going to get declined. Come to find out, I get declined. I can't even get a Banana Republic credit card for the life of me. And I was like, man, this sucks. I got to figure out how to get better credit. Right. This is killing me. I couldn't get a car. I couldn't do anything. I didn't even have a credit card because I couldn't get it. So I was just like the same intensity that I went to like learn marketing. I was like, I got to figure this out. So read a bunch of books, learned from experts, like got my hands on everything I could to figure out how to repair my credit. So long story short, I ended up cleaning up my credit. It went from a 530 or something. I basically, within 37 days, raised my credit score 135 points.
Wow.
No joke, like for real. I have all the documentation to do it. And so I was like, oh my God. And I remember Yannick Silver had a post, and he said, document it and profit from it. And so I was like, okay, like I did this whole process. I have all the documentation. Let me just share it with people what I did. Right. And turn it into an information product. And so just by the act of doing it and getting, fortunately, it was a good result, it turned into a great info product. And it was called 37 Days to Clean Credit. And it was a great little business. And I learned a ton of just doing something, getting a good result from it, documenting it, and then profiting from it.
Right, because there's a lot of people that want to get the same results. And that's, if you can show them the way, I mean, that's extremely valuable for people.
Yep.
Yep.
And mind you, that's a big market, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Internet marketing stuff, there's so many people creating so many different products. It's very, fickle, things are changing, and just it's a very interesting market. But credit, everyone has a credit score. Everyone has bad credit. So that market and that niche is not going away. I ended up selling the business 2 or 3 years later after I started it, but it was, for the most part, 100% on autopilot.
That's awesome.
But it came from like I had a problem, I figured it out, and I documented it, and I turned it into step-by-step training on how people can do it.
Right. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, do you have any books that you would recommend to someone who's intrigued by this, and anything that you feel they're like, wow, yeah, I want to hit the 7-figure mark, and I want to build some sort of automated business. Is there anything, or they want to learn marketing? What would kind of your top couple of books be for them?
I would say the best courses I ever went through was Bob Sterling's $1 Million Licensing.
Okay.
And that taught me how to do joint ventures, how to find hidden profit in businesses and in my own business through scratch and dent sales, just interesting ways to do it. Now, the cool thing with that is you don't have to have a business to do that. You can literally step into that role and do that for businesses and take a percentage of the profit and the revenue generated. That was one thing I learned. The other thing is product launch formula, right? Launching any sort of internet information product is a must, I think. I think 37 Signals rework. I learned a couple good nuggets from that. It's not like a hugely in-depth learn how to marketing book, but one of the concepts they talk about, and I'm just talking about my experiences, right?
Sure.
And kind of like where I'm connecting the dots with all these products. So one of the things they talk about that is, sell your byproducts. And, that's from the book Rework. And, the interesting thing is, Henry Ford, they had all this wood from building the Ford cars. Well, all this wood, they said, hey, what are we going to do with all this wood? They ended up turning that into Kingsford, charcoal company. So they end up turning, this extra wood, this useless wood, into a charcoal company. And hey, it turned out to be the most, profitable or biggest charcoal company in the world by selling those byproducts.
That's awesome.
So I came to the idea, I was like, man, we built these really kick-ass campaigns with Call Loop using Infusionsoft. Will other people want it? I mean, in a way, I could sell this byproduct. And that's where kind of killer campaigns came from. So it's just a connecting of the dots of all these different things that are out there, and all the stuff that I've learned. It's just been a culmination of all these different things. Because everyone has information locked inside their head or some sort of expertise that, or not, right? Like maybe it's just like me. I didn't know anything about credit, right? But hey, now I'm a credit expert or whatever. Not really, but
yeah.
I think that's a good place to come from is when you're not the expert. You're just somebody that kind of reluctantly stumbled upon this interesting way or strategy. Here's how I did it, and here's how you can do it too. That always works well.
Yeah, and again, I think what I think about suggesting information marketing is a good place for people to cut their teeth. Or to be honest, if you have a service business or even a product business, attaching an info product to that can be one of the best forms of lead generation and generating a client list that you could imagine, because the margins are phenomenal if you depending on the quality of what you're selling. If you think about, the CD only cost me $1 to get made, yeah, but for someone, if it's a credit report, that could be worth a couple of $100 to someone, right? So even though your cost of creating the product is only a few dollars, the value that can provide to someone if they want to buy a house for their family, and they've got a good job, whatever, it's just like they just made a couple of dumb mistakes, or they just were neglectful. It doesn't necessarily mean, right, that they can't get back to where they want to go, and that could be really, really valuable to them. And the beautiful thing about that is you can sell it and not make any profit on it, but now you've got a buyer's list, and that's something that's really, really, really valuable to any business. I think this is a good point to just show the difference. And a key tenet of good marketing is that most people think that they make a sale to get they get a customer to make a single sale, but really you make a sale to get a customer. And because the customer who buys something, like if if I'm a plumber and I sell like do-it-yourself plumbing stuff, those people who buy that get stuck and have questions, those are going to be some of the best clients because they know, value, and appreciate my expertise. And it'd be easier for me to get that book into the hands of somebody. I can get that book or my training course on how to do it yourself quickly. 10 quick fixes that'll save you thousands of dollars in in plumbing expenses. If you sincerely try to help people, that'll just create goodwill in the market. It'll be almost like a loss leader you can use to generate a lead list of people that are involved. And
plus it'll lift your authority in the market. There's a lot to be said by, hey, I've got a book out. My buddy Ryan Fletcher just quote unquote authored a book. It's a really good book in the real estate space. And it's self-published, but guess what? He is an author. It's being sold on Amazon.
Yep.
What does that do to his marketplace? It lifts his authority. And obviously Ryan's a writer. I don't like to write.
Right.
But guess what? You could speak it.
Yes.
And so an example, like my mom's a real estate agent, but when you look at like the process of bringing on a client and actually getting a commission, it's a very long road and it's a lot of work. But along the way, what do they need? Well, you need to check their credit. Okay, there's probably some sort of affiliate program out there where you can, and there is, where you can put people through getting their credit, and you can get paid on that, right? So regardless of whether they use your services, they are using outside services to get the things done that they need to get done to get the job done, right? To get the property or whatever it is. And so, it's been a way for my mom to supplement her income for people that don't follow through or don't use her services or don't get the listing or sell their home or whatever it is.
Right.
So, in every business there is kind of these supplementary products and services that you don't have to own, but just as an affiliate, you could, make the commissions on that.
No, exactly. I think that's a great point. So supplement the income, establish yourself as an expert. You're looking to you're looking to buy some property, and you're looking at 3 realtors, and one of them has a course on how to buy and flip properties. Right off the bat, you just feel more comfortable with that person because, well, they're obviously they're teaching others how to make an income in this. You know what I mean? Like it's almost more proof to the person. So. And again, it builds that list. And then I know with internet marketing, a lot of people talk about the list, but even with most businesses, this is something I think is really important. Gary Halbert talked about this. He said, if you were to start a burger joint of any kind, what would be the one thing that you would want? That
hungry crowd, man.
Right, a hungry crowd. And people are like, I want lots of money, I want a fancy sign. No, I want a starving crowd, because you could start with a barbecue, and you could even forget that. You just even got coals, and like you got coals in a garbage bin, and you're making burgers, but you can reinvest the profits. If you had a large enough hungry crowd, you can just keep selling burgers and then reinvest, and now you got a barbecue, and now you got a stall, and now you got a location. So that's what it is when we talk about building a list. It's trying to build that pool of people and then educate them on why you are an expert, and then obviously solicit to them for the other services. And it's just help the people that need the help with what you're doing. And if they're not buying what you're selling, survey them and figure out the problems they are having and try and help them with those, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're
and services are hard to scale. Like, I'll give you a good story. So Sarah, she works in my office here. She has a company where they do event planning, and she does a service, right? And so gets a client, does the whole thing, and then it's kind of like, shoot, I got to find another client to like pay my rent or whatever, whatever it is. And so there's no sort of consistency with it, and you only have so much time where she can devote to 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 projects a month. If she's pulling her hair out, she has 2 kids, she's married, right? Like she has other priorities in her life. And so, parts of her business are very frustrating. And so I'm like, Sarah, I just explained to her the concept of services you cannot scale. And you can't really scale that business unless you hire more employees, unless you, get more salespeople out there, unless you have other people going out there, and to grow your business, you need more people, which means more costs. At the end of the day, is bringing on more expenses going to make you more money? And it may not. Like, what's the lifestyle that's going to give you? And can you sell the business? Right. At the end of the day, you don't want to be doing this forever, or maybe you do want to be doing it forever, but you want some sort of exit. Like, can you build something within a couple of years or later in life? Sell this company. Right. It's kind of like if you're a doctor, you go to Mr. Bernstein to get your teeth checked. but Mr. Bernstein gets out of the business, maybe you'll go to that same doctor or dentist.
Right.
But, if he goes and sells his practice, he never gets top dollar for it.
Yeah.
Because he's really just selling the client list, because it's all relationship based.
Right.
So, and the same thing with the service business. It's like, well, everyone knows you. And if it's not your business anymore, you got to pass that relationship equity, that social equity you've built onto this new company, and that's the D value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not hard, it's not easy to do that.
Yep.
And when you have a product, you can scale it. So I'm like, Sarah, do an event, put an event on. It's good. And number one, it'll make you an authority. You can put together the slides in 20 minutes, and you know how to put an event together. So put an event to share with other people in the industry. Hey, your 7 biggest PR mistakes to avoid in 2015 or whatever.
Right.
And she'll get industry people, but now she's on stage. She's seen as an expert. People are going to come out of the woodworks like, oh my God, this is the best stuff ever.
Yep.
Can I hire you? Right. But now you can increase your prices, so you can only take on 2 or 3 clients a month. But now you're weaning towards maybe part-time consulting, or you're creating an info product so you can scale it. Like, like getting away from the service-based stuff, but getting into using your expertise and documenting it. Right. And turning it into a scalable business that you can profit from. Right. But you still have the stuff that you love to do. It's just now you have a way to, because not everyone can use your services, but they would love to buy your expertise. Right. Because you've been doing it for 20 years,
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I think, you can scale service businesses, but I think you have to look more to a franchise model for that. And at the same time, not all of them are. It's not necessarily a great, like you said, it's not, you might be able to scale it, but is that worth investing in? And I don't want to say no, because you really can't, I don't want to paint with broad strokes, but I think there are a lot of instances where exactly what you said is true, that it's just a pain in the butt to do it that way, and it's just a lot of overhead and a lot of expense when you could just do something easier than that. I remember I was managing 180 units, like multifamily apartment buildings. So managing 180 units, and we had this guy that we would call to come clean our carpets. And I was getting on this marketing kick, and I remember I was really into Joe Polish at the time, and he that's what he did. He helped revolutionize the carpet cleaning industry and that. And I remember talking to the guy, and and I remember saying to him, it was just him and another guy in the truck, and I'm like, you guys are really great. You're so professional. You do such awesome work. You ever thought of hiring more people? And talking to the owner, and he's like, you know what? He's like, I did that. He lived in Edmonton for 6 years. He said he had five trucks and 15 staff and all those things. He said, but I make more money now, just me and one guy. Just going around than I did.
Less headaches.
It's just I sleep, I get more sleep. And I make more money at the end of the day when everything's said and done. And I don't know if he'd gone through Joe's training and, he might have been able to do a better way, but that's where, if you are going to go that route, you need to make sure, I brought this up on a couple of other calls, but you make sure you do the black Lamborghini test, which is if you want to go into an industry, take Lisa in event planning, and she decides that this is a service business she wants to try to scale. You need to do the black Lamborghini test, which means put everyone who does event planning on a table, all your competitors, all the people who do it as a service, and then eliminate anyone who can't realistically walk on a car lot and buy a black Lamborghini and not have the payments kill them. And that'll eliminate 99% of the people on the table, and then model those few who are left, if there's anyone left. And if there's no one left, then that might tell you that this is you can do it. And a lot of us want to be pioneers, but oftentimes the easy money is just doing something that don't be a me too, but doing something that's proven. And I think that that's something as well as entrepreneurs. We always want to create something new and be industrial and revolutionary. But oftentimes, if no one's selling anything to that market, it might be because the people who have, were kind of taken for everything they got because there's no one buying.
Yeah. So, and I think even if you're like, oh, well, there's other people in the market, oh, it's too crowded, especially in the information world, a lot of that comes down to the personality. Like if people like you and they like what you stand for, that can be the difference between you and the other guy. Some people may like this person while other people like this person. And so it's just a connection between a lot of those people, and finding what that connection is.
Right. Chris, what was some of the best advice you've ever been given in your career?
The best advice.
Not to put you on the spot or anything. But put you
That's
on
a
the
tough
spot.
question. The best advice. I would say, I mentioned it already, but, it really brought to my attention what to build. It was build a business, right? Because I was, creating income, but there was no real business that I really wanted to build. And so I think Rich Schefren, indirectly gave the advice of, are you building an income or are you building a business? And so for me, that's been just kind of instrumental with, the products I create or the things I get involved with. Is it a fly-by-night thing? Because I don't want to be a part of it. Like you have the internet marketing world where there's churn more products and all this sort of stuff out. But they're going to move on to the next thing, right? Like they're not going to maybe build a real business around it. Some guys do, but you see a lot of people just maybe build it for a cash infusion.
Right. So can you, what separates? I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about, like, obviously it's an income stream versus like a business, but like, what are some other signs? What's evidence that you have a business versus just an income stream? What would be the evidence if I was a police officer or detective? What would I be looking for to say that, no, this is a business, not just an income stream?
Yeah, I mean, something that isn't dependent on trends, right? Like if you have a product that's dependent on a trend changing or dying, that is not a business, right? That is you're riding a trend.
Right.
First of all, it's the market, right? Who's the market you're going after? Is it a brand new market? Is it a new market you're trying to create, which is a problem? So that's first and foremost. And then, I think once you realize you have a business, is like you're growing, or you have return customers, or you have a product that people really need. And so I remember I first heard this from Todd Brown a couple of years ago, where he says, you want to create a product that is a pain of disconnect. So, for example, like when we had these membership sites or had these recurring, replicated websites, it was so deeply entrenched in people's businesses because they put it on their business card and they put it on this. And, so for them to cancel that, there's a serious pain associated with it. So it's like AWeber. Like when your credit card fails and your entire business is dependent on your emails, you're going to do whatever it takes, move mountains to make sure that account is up to date. So the pain of disconnect with a service like that is massive. And the retention on that stuff is huge. So I would think, what's the product that you can create, that pain of disconnect. Now, obviously, that is more software as a service side to it, but also, what's the urgent pain that people need to solve, and your product solves that, right? I think, the credit repair people need to solve it because, hey, I got to get a house in 6 months. Credit's a problem, and I need to solve that, right? And so, that was a problem. And I think Gary Bencivenga, he had a really good point. I remember listening to, and I still listen to it because it's just awesome, but it's the Gary Bencivenga 100 seminar.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. There's so many good nuggets in there. And so one of the things he says is, problems are markets. He says, I don't get an Advil unless I have a need or a want or a desire. You don't just pop an Advil because you want to. It's because you have a problem. And so, if there's a problem, there's a solution that people are looking for. And that, i.e., there's an opportunity for something to be created or sold or marketed, ethically to people that have that problem. So problems are markets.
No, I love that. And that's actually where I learned that from, was Gary Bencivenga in the 100 seminar. He's phenomenal. For people who don't know, he's the greatest living copywriter of our time. And copywriting is such a critical skill because copywriting liberated the sales rep, because prior to learning how to write sales, it's now you're able to scale. It's learning. Gary Bencivenga is he's able to transfer salesmanship into the written word so well that his letters beat any other letters anyone else could create, any other sort of package someone could create to mail to someone to make them want to buy. Gary Bencivenga, who's retired now, is the number one at it. And anyways, yeah, that's a great resource. The Gary Bencivenga 100 seminar. I think that's
and that gets into, for people that, copywriting. It's not copyrights, trademarks, patents, or anything like that. And copywriting is, the art of writing persuasive copy, right? Sales copy, words in print. And it's funny, I was Seth, who's in my office, literally sitting right next to me right now. We were talking about the difference between direct response and image-based advertising. And so, most companies are enamored by, I got to have my logo, and I got to have all this just bullshit that at the end of the day, you're a small business, you got to make money. So that $1,000 ad you just bought for a page, you got to return some sort of investment on. So how are you going to do that? Well, that's where direct response comes in. And so, we were talking about pest control and how you would enter into a neighborhood and all this sort of stuff. Most guys would maybe put like a real flashy postcard and this and that. I would write a letter, right? And the letter would be like, hey, I'm Chris. I'm actually local here. And you know what? I actually do pest control. And come to find out in your neighborhood, there's all these bee willards, bees that fly around and they set these nests inside of your roof. And actually, I found this in your neighbor's house. Blah blah blah. I mean, obviously, tell the truth, right? I'm just kind of spinning the tongue here, but I would write a letter, and just be as genuine, as human as possible. I think, getting away from sales, because once you have flashy stuff, that means selling, and people don't like to be sold to, but they sure love to buy, and they sure love to buy from people that they really like, they know, and they trust.
Right.
So
and stories are a great way to get to know someone. That's awesome. That's a great tip. Anyone that's not well versed in copywriting, that should really, even the process you go through, because if you're going to write down a letter like that, you have to think about who you're writing the letter to, and that process is just a great business building skill in itself. Which is, again, it comes back to what makes copywriting so valuable. Actually, I've met Gary a couple of times. We're actually friends now. I'm able to reach out and ask him questions, which is just such a blessing.
Lucky you.
I know. But again, it comes back to you're the average of the 5 people who spend the most time with. I'm going to try and get him on one of these interviews. So he's only ever, Ken McCarthy, one of my mentors, is one of the only people that have, I think it's the only interview he's ever done outside of his System 100 seminar. So it was with Ken. And then, anyways, but Chris, thank you for your time today. What are you working on now? What kind of stuff you got? Like, you excited by? What's fueling your passion these days?
Yeah, so just growing Call Loop, and we have a new kind of project in the works, and it just it's been a product that we've had out for a couple of years. It's called Auto Teleseminar, but basically allows you to automate conference calls, so you could automate your marketing and selling. And we kind of transition that into kind of a conference call platform. So, and it's called kickaconference.com, Kicka conference.com. And so we're building that, a new, cool, awesome conference call platform that will just allow you to generate sales from conference calls. I think a lot of people do webinars, but in my experience, webinars take a lot of time and preparation to get right, and conference calls and teleseminars can be a very simple, fast way to do it. So we're working on that. Call Loop is obviously the main business, but Kicka Conference kind of the new thing, and and that's about it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if anyone wants to check any of those out, it's callloop, CALLLOOP.com, and then we have Kicka Conference, so KICKA. Conference, CONFRENCE. And is that kickaconference.com?
It is.
Okay, yeah, kickaconference.com. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. I really do value and appreciate you as a peer, as a mentor, as a friend, and I think we gave some great content today. Anyone who's listening to this, even if you have an existing business, if you've got a 7-figure business, go back, because I guarantee that there's gems in here if you just think about it and you're willing to be, think about being a newbie and look at it with fresh eyes. I know sometimes we get so close to our projects. If you try and look at it from another perspective and just listen to this call, there's going to be a gem in it for you, because we covered some awesome stuff. And thank you, Chris. I really appreciate what you shared with us today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for inviting me. It's been a lot of fun. So
good. You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember, taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better, and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you.